NFL Total Access, the show that I helped launch in 2003. Congratulations to them.
That's great.
For getting nominated for Best Studio Show Daily. And part of the reason why is because people tune in to hear what Ian Rapoport's got to say. And my buddy Rap Sheet joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Ian?
Congratulations, Rich. It's kind of cool.
Thanks, brother. Same to you, man, because you're on Total Access and Good Morning Football quite a lot. And I appreciate you joining us here in advance of a huge week coming up next week on the NFL Draft.
Yeah.
Why would the Dolphins want to trade out of 6 when they trade back up into 6 as part of that big, huge deal a few weeks ago? What's going on there?
So here's kind of my understanding of where the Dolphins are. So obviously they were at 3, and then they took the huge bounty of picks to move back to 12. But if you're at 12, you're sort of kind of out of the mix, right? Like you lose the ability a little bit to do whatever you want, and you don't get to almost control it. And I think the idea is when you're at 6, even if you have to give up a first rounder to do it, which obviously the Dolphins did, you're much more in control of your own fate. So they trade up, or they trade back, they trade up, and now let's say quarterback slides to them, then someone who wants to come up, like they can basically hold them hostage and go, we're going to get the quarterback premium twice. That's basically the thought, is say like, we're going to make sure that someone pays us to draft their own quarterback 2 times, not 1 time, which increases their draft haul.
So, okay. I get it. I mean, but at some point you got to hit the draft it now button, right? I mean, you're
right. And like, let's say Kyle Pitts is there at 6. To me, they probably just take him. I mean, that's a guy who I've spoken to, I don't know how many people, but 25 pages worth of notes. And I haven't had anyone find anything wrong with Kyle Pitts. It's almost funny. It's like Quentin Nelson a couple of years back. Like, everybody loves him. So maybe the Dolphins just take him. Otherwise, like, they're going to be able to get some incredible value. They might trade again.
So, okay. Kyle Pitts isn't lasting till 6, right? I mean, that may I mean, that would mean 4 quarterbacks and then Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell, right? To the Bengals. And thus that's the glorious heavens opening up for Kyle Pitts to stay in the state of Florida and play professional football. That's the way that would work.
Yeah, I would say the only way that Kyle Pitts goes to 6, or, sort of lasts to 6, which is, again, possible, is if the Falcons take a quarterback. And they have looked hard at the quarterbacks. I know something Peter King mentioned, and I would echo this, that Arthur Blank very much wanted his people to at least take a hard look, investigative look at the quarterbacks. That is something he wanted as an owner, to make sure that whether or not they drafted one, they were ready to draft one. So that means the Falcons are in the quarterback mix, possibility, whatever. So if the Falcons take one, then I think Pitts probably falls to the Dolphins. And then, then it's either do they trade out or do they just take maybe the best player in the draft, not named Trevor Lawrence?
See, I guess if the one thing again though is and Chris Greer deserves an amazing amount of credit and respect for what he is doing at the general manager position in Miami, and that is a very long with all due respect. I'll be very honest, because at some point though, and get the guy you want. You want Kyle Pitts. You've got 1 million draft picks. Go get Kyle Pitts. Call up the Falcons and say we want him, and that the Bengals, the Falcons would just run the risk of hoping the Bengals don't trade out. They're not going to take the quarterback that you might want, and go down to 6 and get the quarterback you want anyway. I know that you do run the risk of that, but the Dolphins at some point, it just reminds me of the Sixers. They amassed all those picks, and eventually they did turn it into players and had to go win with them, right? That's why hearing that, hey, the Dolphins might trade out again, I'm like, that kind of made me stop and go home, Ian,
Yeah, it kind of made me also, but it makes sense because it makes sense in this way. If someone is going to take a quarterback, like let's assume right now that the Dolphins have the franchise quarterback, right? Which I would say across the NFL is much more of an open question than the Dolphins would like, but they believe in Tua. So let's assume for the sake of argument they believe in Tua and their quarterback question is over. If that's the case, then I don't mind them gouging everyone else for a quarterback because, Kyle Pitts is, I think, going to be a great, great player, and everybody loves him. Absent that, there's maybe some similar players up until like the 12th or 13th person in the draft. Then it kind of flattens out a little bit. So you have like a group of great, great players, probably up to 12 or 13, and then you have everyone else. So as long as you can stay in that mix, theoretically, you're going to be getting a great player anyway. Maybe just get the capital. That would be kind of my explanation for the Dolphins. And in the end, we'll see what they'll end up doing.
Ian Rapoport here on the Rich Eisen Show. The draft sometimes can be like a solar system, Ian, and trust me, I'm sober. And when I make this analogy, and by that I mean that there's a fixed presence, and then we in the media are all orbiting around it, and we just have different perspectives of the same fixed presence over time. And the fixed presence, the sun, is the third overall pick and the son of Mike Shanahan, who gets to control it. And we're all orbiting around it. And on one side of the sun, we see Mac Jones, and now we're coming around. There's Justin Fields, and yet the Niners haven't changed who they want, right? I mean, who they traded up to go get. They have they? Was the second pro day changed, or you're hearing something different, or we're all hearing something different? What is going on here, Ian?
I believe that going into the second pro day cycle or whatever that was, the 49ers had a leader in the clubhouse, and they were looking to confirm that. I don't know for sure right now whether or not they did confirm it, but that is my belief of what was happening. So the weirdest thing for me in this whole thing, and I'm not into the gambling world at all, and I guess considering the deal that the NFL just struck, I probably should at least find out about it.
Nice.
But somehow Justin Fields is the odds-on favorite to go number 3, and I cannot, for the life of me, figure out what happened in the last week to make that happen. Like,
That's right.
I just don't know that anything actually did. To me, still, I would say Mac Jones is the guy to look at there. And, maybe they've kept it all a secret and they've hoodwinked us and, kind of like the Bears did with Trubisky, which, congratulations if that happens. But I will stick with Mac Jones until I'm convinced otherwise. I'll say that.
Well, I mean, every talent evaluator I've spoken to believes that Fields is the better talent than Mac Jones. With the ultimate, that's everybody. I mean, I haven't heard somebody say I would take Mac Jones over Justin Fields. Our colleague Bucky Brooks said it best, saying that Fields and Lance are far better athletes than Mac Jones, has the major upside. That Mac Jones is like Iron Man, where Alabama's team and program and coaching staff are like the suit that makes him the superpower, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe we're just hearing from all the initial reaction was, well, Mac Jones fits, and now 2 weeks later, a pro day later, and 2 pro days later, with Lance having his, that maybe that's it. I don't know. That's the question mark here. I don't get it.
Yeah, and maybe I do. I've never heard that description of the Iron Man thing, but it kind of does make sense. So the background, the sense, or whatever you'd say I get on Mac Jones is this. He has a great mind, total recall. He is brilliant. I would say for Kyle Shanahan and for Mike Shanahan, who loves him also, his brilliant mind, Mac Jones' brilliant mind, is something that is insanely important to them, right? Something they can build around and use, assuming that is the pick. I haven't heard, Trey Lance's evaluation goes up and down. The game he played last year wasn't great. Everybody loves the talent. He's very smart. It just might take a while. So, you're not going to know what you're getting immediately. Justin Fields, I really haven't had anyone knock him very much at all. I mean, he's had some up and down moments, but some of the up moments, like the Clemson game, have been incredible. So I think it's more just, like most people I've spoken with, Rich, believe that Justin Fields is the number 3 quarterback in the draft. I just don't know that list includes the 49ers right now.
Ian Rapoport here on the Rich Eisen Show. And then usually in an NFL draft, but not always, and I don't know if this year is that there is a storyline that took up tons of the oxygen pre-free agency, during free agency, and post, that dies down and then bursts back up. Is Russell Wilson that this year? You got one for me at all, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson, I think, in my humble opinion, I think we've probably talked enough about that this offseason. Don't worry, though. If you like the Russell Wilson storyline this offseason, we can always do it again next offseason when he actually might be traded.
Right.
The Deshaun Watson thing, I would not say is over. We still have so much to sort out. His legal situation. We have a team that has not yet been willing to trade him, and he has still privately said he doesn't plan to play for them. So something must happen there. I don't know what it's going to be, but something must happen. I think that's going to be the one that we still need to figure out. The Russell Wilson stuff, I'll put a pin in that, and we'll talk about it all of next offseason. Don't worry.
So let's not look for a trade right there. And then Deshaun Watson, if his, what everyone in the media refers to as his situation, had not arisen, this would be the time where our first 10 minutes of our conversation would have been all about who might get Deshaun Watson and could the Jets trade number 2 overall and stuff like that for him. But that's just not getting handled and finished, and to the point where we understand what Watson's standing with the league would be, let alone his team, let alone his community, let alone the legal system. I think we're a long time away from that. This just seems to be getting uglier and uglier, and murkier and murkier without any sort of I guess culmination down the road. Ian, this sounds like this is going into the summer. Forget about the draft week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about all that, because I would not rule anything out with the Deshaun Watson situation at all. I wouldn't. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know these things can turn on a dime very, very quickly. So, will it last?
Like an actual? Hold on a second, Ian. Like an actual dime? Is that what you're saying? Like seriously? Like, because that, a settlement where this, if you will, goes away from the court system and from the headlines, that would then lead to, well, what is the league going to investigate and what's the team going to do? Like, that's where that would then head into. So is that what are you again, this is, are you referring to that's something that's possible in the near future?
I mean, where it stands right now is Deshaun Watson has not wanted to settle because he hasn't settled. It's like when, trades haven't happened because there's been no agreement. Like, there's been no, I haven't gotten any word that he would settle.
Okay.
A settlement would probably accelerate things and cause everyone to declare what they actually want to do. Like, I would also say, like, I still don't know what the Texans would or wouldn't do. They have made they have not said at all that they would consider a trade. If there was a settlement, would they consider one? I don't know. It's just, I don't want to say that anything at all is decided right now, because there are literally 7 things that need to happen before we know anything on the Watson situation.
Okay. Before I let you go, what are we not looking at? What's a story that nobody's talking about right now for the draft, for next week? Give me something.
I think we've hit on a lot of them. We've probably spent a lot of time on the top 10. I would just say the couple things that I would keep my eye on. Not a lot of great edge rushers in this draft, and very few great tackles. So you kind of wonder what people might trade up for, not talking quarterback. I would say, you may trade up for a pass rusher because there's just not that many. Mm-hmm. Maybe Jalen Phillips is the first, and maybe someone comes up for him. And then if Penei Sewell goes early, who else trades up for a tackle? That would be kind of my next question, because quarterback's important, tackle's next most important. There's just not a lot of options, and there are a lot of teams that still need tackles.
What about a quarterback to be traded back into the first round for? That would give us 6.
Well,
what do you think? Is that
possible?
possible?
That's really interesting. Yeah, because, to me, you have Alan Mond and you have Davis Mills. I would describe both of them as highly regarded. And then you look at the back of the first round, and you have the Saints, who, I don't know what they have at quarterback, but could they draft one early and kind of add that person to the mix? Maybe. Could the Steelers draft one? Possibly. Could the Bucs, who have Tom Brady, who re-signed their number 3 quarterback but not their number 2 quarterback, could they draft one? Possibly. So, could a 6 quarterback sneak into the first round, a la Lamar Jackson? I would say that is definitely a fun storyline. As we get to like 10:30 at night or whatever it is on Thursday, I will be wondering along with you.
And speaking of the Steelers, before I let you go, Ian, I lied. I'm not going to let you go based off of that last one. I mean, a coach gets a 3-year contract extension as opposed to going and coaching into his walk year. Normally that would get a ton of headlines and play and what have you. With Mike Tomlin, it's just a shrug. I mean, the Steelers, honestly, I was born in 1969. They still have only 3 coaches in my 51 years on this planet. It is remarkable how much of a shrug it gets. But that happened today.
I know. Steelers are amazing. They really are. They have to be one of the best run franchises in all of sports, right? I mean, and what's crazy, too, with a wild hire, young, brash, thin resume, African-American, and the guy he was, sort of battling was, like a lot of coaches at that time, an older white guy. And the Steelers went against the grain, hired someone they believe in, and it might have been, I don't know, one of the best hires in sports history. I mean, Tomlin's amazing, and he got another 3-year deal. He's probably going to coach forever. He will. I mean, I can't imagine any situation where he's not coaching the Steelers until he retires. Like he's awesome, and I think it's an awesome organization. Real
quick, you were cutting in and out. Who was the guy that the Steelers didn't hire? That was down to Tomlin and who after Cowher? Who was that again?
Man, was it Russ Grimm? I'm trying to remember now.
Right. Could have been. It might have been because he was on. Might have been. Right. Well, I mean,
I also remember. I believe it was our colleague Mike Silver reporting for Sports Illustrated that had a bombshell of a scoop that says it might be. That was saying it might be Tomlin. Everybody went crazy. I apologize, Rich. Since you're going to let me go, I need to take this call.
Go for it, Ian. You take care, brother. That's Ian Rapoport. There you go. That's the name of his memoir. I have to take this call.
Yeah, it really is. What breaking news that was.
Right? I'm sorry. I just don't want to let people go. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.